Now, Donald Trump seems to have made quite an impression on you as you went into his man cave to interview him. You said his skin glows a sodium orange, hair blonder than any human you could encounter, and clothes in primary colours so bold they make everyone else in the room seem dowdy.
He is an electric personality. You don't necessarily need to be a fan. You don't need to suspend your critical faculties when you meet him to recognise that he is a phenomenon. Not only a hugely successful businessman and media personality long before he ever went into politics, but someone who became President of the United States against the predictions of almost every pundit and commentator that there is. Now, when you meet Donald Trump, you are in the presence of someone who treats an interview as an opportunity to share his views on life, the universe and everything. And in that sense, I described listening to him as like trying to stop a river in spate. There is just a flood of commentary on so many issues. But The Times today carries that interview on its website in full. And what we wanted to do is to make sure that people had the chance to hear what Donald Trump believes, so they can make their own mind up about him. Some people will read it and weep. Other people will find material in it which is encouraging. I think it's important that people make their own mind up on the basis of the facts as reported.
What impression did you take away from the interview? Do you think that Donald Trump is going to be good for Britain?
I think he wants a strong relationship with Britain. He has an affection for Britain. His mother comes from Scotland, and he has a particular regard for us because he believes that he predicted Brexit. And at the time of that vote, there were very few international figures who welcomed it as enthusiastically and unequivocally as he did. And he believes that it was the right decision for us, and he wants to make it work. More than that, he thinks that it's in America and Britain's interests to have a trade deal. He thinks that would be a win-win for both countries. And again, you don't have to be a fan of everything the man has said or done to believe that a strong business-like relationship between Britain and America should be a good thing.
Quite a coup for you, isn't it, getting this interview? I mean, you've met face-to-face with the President-elect before the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, before the Prime Minister Theresa May. So is this a bit of one in the eye for government, who, of course, sacked you? Did you speak to them before this interview? Have you spoken to them after?
I don't think so, no. I mean, of course I'm a politician. I have been a minister. I'm a backbencher now, but I'm also a writer, and it was as a writer that I was invited to, not as a politician, that I was invited to see the President-elect. And what's striking is the warmth of his praise for Theresa May, for the government, and the enthusiasm he has for the leadership that she's shown. So in that sense, I think the interview reflects a warm personal regard. Do you think
your background, though, as an MP, as a cabinet member, got you that interview? Your background in British government got you to the front of the queue when it came to getting the first sit-down interview with the President-elect in his inauguration week?
Well, I think that he is clearly a fan of the Times newspaper, and I think that played a part, but it's important to stress...
He won't have given you an interview because he's a fan of the Times newspaper. Surely he'll have been giving you an interview because you've got a direct link to British government. You've been in it.
Yeah, I've been in government, but it's important to acknowledge as well that this was a shared interview. It wasn't, it was with the Times, but it was also with the German newspaper Bild, and my colleague from Bild also conducted the interview alongside me. So Donald Trump wanted to discuss Brexit, Britain, Europe, the world. And, of course, in talking to me, he was talking to someone who had been involved in the campaign to secure Britain's departure from the European Union. But he wanted, obviously, to reach out and to share his views with a British and with a European audience.
He wanted to reach out and share his views, but he hasn't spoken to the Foreign Secretary yet or the Prime Minister. He spoke to you. And you know what's going to happen next. The same thing that happened after Nigel Farage went to Trump Towers and met with Donald Trump. You're now going to be looked at as a potential ambassador. Would you fancy that role?
No, I'm very happy being a Member of Parliament for Surrey Heath and a writer for The Times. But I think it's important to recognise that Donald Trump had nothing but praise for Theresa May in this interview, wants to see her quickly, wants to secure a trade deal. And I know from the conversations that I had around my visit that when the Foreign Secretary went to talk to members of the Trump team, they enjoyed their conversations with him, and they felt that he was an effective advocate for Britain's interests and
do you think
someone
they're going to get on?
You
know all the personalities involved very well. you've met Donald Trump, you know Theresa May very well, and you know Boris Johnson. I'm particularly interested in how you think that the Prime Minister is going to get on with Donald Trump, because personally, their personalities couldn't be any different.
They are different people, and the Prime Minister has been clear, and I think absolutely right, when she's been critical of some of the things that Donald Trump has said and done in the past. But the Prime Minister also knows that a strong relationship between Britain and America on a business-like basis can work in both our interests. And one of the things about the Prime Minister is that she's a cool customer. She can appraise in this relationship what is right for Britain, and I know that she will secure the best possible deal in the interests of British jobs and British workers.
OK, really interesting to speak to you. Michael Gove there, speaking in his capacity as journalist for The Times, that interview in The Times newspaper today. And we are, of course, talking about it here on Sky News as well.
Thank you.
We will make America great again.